Okay, it's 7:30, so I guess we can get started. Good evening, and welcome to the Minnesota Zen Meditation Center. Thanks for turning out on this kind of dreary day. I hope you had a chance to enjoy some of the beautiful weather we've had yesterday and the day before. And hi to those folks that are staying dry and warm out there in Zoom land. Before I start the talk, I want to tell you about something that's happening in the backyard. If you come here during the day, you might get a chance to see it. There's a new structure being built back out here in the it's the northeast corner. It's called we're calling it like a viewing structure, but it's kind of modeled after a Japanese house or little structure that you'd find in a tea garden, where people would rest before they go in to have the tea ceremony. But it's being built with traditional Japanese joinery. So there's no nails or wooden screws, metal screws, or anything involved in it. Just like in this gate that's been built out here. We have that was built a number of years ago at the end of the driveway. And we have an expert that's a member of our Sangha, Killian Clark, that knows how to do all this stuff, and he's designed it and supervising the construction. So you might be interested in seeing that sometime if you're here during the daytime. So my name is Wedin, and I'm a lay teacher here. And tonight I want to talk about one of the fundamental and earliest teachings in Buddhism. But then I want to show how it can be applied to a problem, an issue that we have. It's very contemporary, that's happening right now in our country. And so the title of my talk is The Three Poisons and Polarization. So let's start with the concepts of the three poisons. In Buddhism, these three poisons are described as the fundamental mental states that are the root causes of suffering. So they are listed most commonly. The three words we use to describe them are greed, hatred, and delusion. So the first poison, greed, synonyms that could sometimes get used for that are lust, craving, attachment, desire. And it refers to the craving for pleasant experiences, and possessions and status. And it's this incessant need and desire and feeling that we need something. And if we have something and we like it, we want more of it. And this can lead to actions that can cause suffering for us and others. And I would say that this poison is kind of at the heart of our economy, our materialist advertising-driven economy. The second poison, hatred. Other synonyms for this are aversion, anger, aggression, and it's the desire to push away or destroy things that are unpleasant. So it can be a wide range of negative emotions. It can be something sort of mild, like mild dislike, or it can be more intense rage. And once this can cause a lot of suffering, conflict and pain. So the third poison, I said, was delusion. And a synonym often used for this is ignorance. And this is the one that I've always had the hardest time figuring out what this really is. But it's very important because it's the root of the other two, of both greed and hatred. And so it's delusion or ignorance is a state of not understanding the true nature of reality. And in particular, we're deluded when we don't understand the concepts of impermanence and the concept of non-self. These are two really important concepts in Buddhism. So those are the three poisons, and they're the root causes of suffering. That's a fundamental teaching. And the goal of Buddhist practice is to purify the mind of these three poisons and then replace them with their antidotes. The antidotes are sometimes called the three wholesome roots. And the antidote to greed is generosity. And the antidote to aversion or hatred is loving kindness. And the antidote to delusion is wisdom. So these three poisons, that's kind of an ancient diagnosis of individual suffering. But if you look out at the world today, if you look out at the United States today, we can see these same poisons kind of magnified in a big way, and it's leading to collective suffering that we see today. And it's the problem that's of political and societal social polarization. And I think we're seeing a societal expression of greed, hatred, and delusion. So a recent New York Times poll that came out just last month in September found that 13% of Americans named political polarization as the nation's most serious problem. And that was second only to the economy, which was listed as 16%. So political polarization was a bigger problem, these people said, than immigration, than crime, than the state of democracy, than inflation, than healthcare. So it's a big deal. And it's been that way for a while, obviously. And we've seen it even more in the last couple of months. For example, we saw it right here in our own community, August 27th, the shooting at Annunciation Church. And that one hit pretty close to home for me because I had a grandchild that used to attend that church, that school. And then just a couple of weeks after that, there was the Charlie Kirk assassination. And that set off a whole big furor about free speech and how should we treat people that have different beliefs and opinions. Once again, a big split. And then right now, tomorrow is beginning of week 5 in the federal shutdown. And so we've got this two political parties that can't even talk to each other. We've got absolute paralysis in Washington. So, if we look at this reality of political polarization, maybe a question to ask is, what would the Buddha say about this? So you go to the sutras and you won't find the word polarization in any of the sutras. But there's a way around that, and that's to use artificial intelligence. This past summer, I co-taught a class on Zen and science, and one of the sessions was on Buddhism and artificial intelligence. And I wanted to demonstrate how chatbots or large language models can, if you ask them a question, give them a prompt or a query, a chatbot will go to this huge database and assemble a response, and it looks very much like a person is giving you a very well-informed response. And so I decided to ask Buddha a question. I asked Google Gemini at the question, actually, but I asked about Buddha, and I happened to ask about polarization. So here's the question the prompt that I gave Google Gemini. Well, I'll read it to you. In the United States today, there is great political polarization. If the Buddha were alive today, what advice would he give? Please give your answer in the form of a Buddhist sutra in the style of Buddha's writing in the past. Thank you. So I got a response back in about 3 or 4 seconds, and I was very impressed with this response. And I told the students in the class that, wow, this is so good, I could probably use it for a Dharma talk. So, lo and behold, when I was coming up with a subject for a Dharma talk, I thought, well, geez, maybe I'll use this. So, I'm going to read some paragraphs from the chatbot's response and elaborate on them. And the full response, I call this the Polarization Sutra. It was 17 paragraphs long, 1,000 words. I've got a copy of it here. That if you want to pick it up afterwards, you can grab a copy. People online, I put my email address in the chat. You can send me an email and ask me. I'll shoot you a copy of it. So just I'll just pick a few paragraphs from this, and I'll start with the beginning of this, the first few paragraphs, to give you the flavor. So here's how this Polarization Sutra starts. Remember, this is the Buddha speaking. You seek wisdom concerning the discord of the present age, the great schism that divides the hearts and minds of the people. Verily, it is a time when the winds of contention blow strong and the seeds of attachment bear bitter fruit. Monks and all who would listen with an open ear know this. The suffering you witness, the polarization that afflicts the land, arises not from the inherent nature of things, but from the unskillful clinging to views, the delusion of a separate self, and the fires of craving and aversion. So, right away, this response equates polarization with suffering. And once you bring in the word suffering, you're right in the heart of Buddhism, because Buddhism is all about the causes of suffering and how to relieve suffering. And then this goes on to talk about the causes of the polarization and says that it arises from 3 things. First one is the unskillful clinging to views. So clinging to views is really a form of delusion, because we're seeing reality as we want to see it and not as it really is. And then it also talks about the delusion of a separate self. And remember, I said another thing about delusion is that we don't understand the concept of non-self. And then it goes on to talk about the fires of craving and aversion as being a cause. So craving and aversion, that's the first 2 poisons, greed and hatred. So then this sutra goes on, and it looks at these causes in more detail and offers some remedies. And it lists 8 points, sort of 8 principles. And I don't have time to go through all 8, but I'm going to read you 2 of them. So here's the first one. Firstly, understand the nature of views. Just as a man lost in a forest grasps firmly onto a branch, believing it to be the true path, so too do beings cling to their opinions, their beliefs, their political affiliations, convinced of their sole righteousness. Know that all views, however noble they may appear, are but constructs of the mind. When clinging arises, suffering follows. Release the grip of absolute certainty. Hold views lightly, as one holds a fragile flower, knowing it is impermanent and subject to change. So, here he's making the point that we tend to cling on and get attached to our views, our opinions, our beliefs. But those things are really just constructs of our mind. And when we cling to them, it's these constructs, that's just a form of delusion, and it can lead to suffering. But the advice to counter this is to release the grip of certainty, to hold views lightly, like a fragile flower, knowing it is impermanent and subject to change. So here's the second principle that gets mentioned in this sutra. Secondly, observe the arising of attachment and aversion. So remember, those are the two places, attachment and aversion. When a view is held as mine, a sense of us and them is born. To us belongs all good, and to them all error and ill. This is the root of aversion, the desire to push away, to condemn, to destroy that which is not us. And with aversion comes anger, hatred, and the perpetuation of strife. Does it sound a little bit like what's happening sometimes when you open up the paper and see what's going on? Here's the antidote. Cultivate metta, loving kindness for all beings, even those whose views differ from your own. For they too seek happiness and freedom from suffering, though their paths may seem obscured. So I mentioned that the antidote for aversion is metta, is loving kindness. And if you ever practice meditation, you know that you start with sending loving kindness to yourself, and then to someone close to you, and then someone kind of a neutral person, and then to someone that you don't get along with. And so that's what's going on here. That's a suggestion. It's not always easy to do, but that's the suggestion. So I think you can see here that the Buddha shows how that the attachment and aversion leads to this us versus them split in polarization. Now, with these two principles, and I've said there's eight in total, and you could look at them, they're pretty insightful. But they show us what to do for this societal problem we've got. And they show that how it arises, but it doesn't, I'm sort of curious, I want to understand the mechanism. And how do we get locked into this us versus them division? And so for that, I'm going to take a turn here and turn to a powerful cognitive tool that I like to use, and that's a metaphor. Because I'm a geek, I'm going to use a scientific metaphor. And I'm going to explore the meaning of the word polarization. Because that's a word that's been used for a lot of people for what's going on in our society, but that word comes from chemistry and physics. So I wonder what we can learn from the word polarization. So in physics, the polarization of light waves is fundamental. It's what is explained for everything from radio waves to how sunglasses reduce glare. So as a light wave travels toward you, this is your science lesson for the day, as a light wave travels towards you, it oscillates. So think about you're standing on a beach and a wave of water is coming towards you, and the wave moves up and down. It's oscillating. That kind of approximates a vertically oscillating wave. Now, light coming from the sun oscillates, those waves oscillate in vertically, they oscillate horizontally, they oscillate diagonally, they oscillate in all directions when they come towards us. But when the light waves from the sun hit a horizontal surface, like snow, when they hit a horizontal surface and the light waves bounce off and come towards us as glare, those light waves are all they're all horizontal. So the glare that comes towards us is all horizontal light waves. And sunglasses that have polarized lenses, and most sunglasses have polarized lenses, a polarized lens means that this lens is polarized, so it's vertically polarized, which means it's like a picket fence, sort of up and down, and it will only let through things which are vertically polarized. It won't let through these horizontal light waves that are coming at it. So that's how it stops the glare. But it lets other light waves come through. So that's why you can see everything else. But the glare gets blocked. So that's how sunglass polarization works in a sunglass. So here's the metaphor. Media editors and algorithms, social media algorithms, they act like polarization filters. They only let certain types of information pass. An editor at a newscast or a website from a news, is only going to select certain items of news and opinion that agree with their point of view. It's going to be different if you're watching MSNBC or if you're watching Fox News. And a social media algorithm does this in a big way, because once you lock into a certain point of view, it's going to feed you more and more of that. I mean, that's what these algorithms are designed to do. They're designed to keep you engaged, because engagement is what it's all about. It's true, I guess, actually for the media editors too, but especially the algorithms. They keep you engaged, keep your attention, because then that attention can be monetized and sold in our attention economy. So I think it's kind of fair, it's safe to say that most of the information that we're getting through the media and through social media is delivered through a filter. And it's going to reinforce whatever our existing orientation might be. And these filtered perspectives lead to political gridlock, because when one party only allows certain policies and one type of information to come through, and the other party only allows a different type of policy and opinion to come through, that's when you get this deadlock. That's when you get a federal government that shuts down. And that's also what happens at a Thanksgiving dinner table, when you've got two people that have digested all this information from two different media sources. You can see what happens when you get two opposing, polarizing filters, and how it leads to this problem with a little experiment which you can do. So this is the lab part of this lecture. If you find two sunglasses, maybe in your glove compartment or somewhere, or you could do this in a grocery store. You go up to one of those, or a drugstore, go up to one of those big, places where they've got all the sunglasses. But make sure you've got polarized glasses. But if you take two sunglasses and put them on, so you're looking through the lenses like this, it looks just the same as if you're looking through one lens. I'm looking through two lenses, and this is a vertically polarized lens, and this is a vertically polarized lens. So they're letting in the same amount of light coming through. But now, if I rotate it 90 degrees, this vertically lens becomes a horizontally polarized lens. and it is essentially black. I can't see anything through this because the horizontal lens and the vertical lens, they're not letting anything through when you're looking at them together. And that's what happens in Washington when you have two different parties trying to figure things out. Absolute blackness, darkness, nothing happening. So try it out for yourself. So I've gone on quite a while with that scientific metaphor, but let me get back to the three poisons. So when I'm wearing these sunglasses and I'm blocking out the light, I'm not really seeing reality as it is, okay? Because I'm blocking out some of the light rays. And when I'm reading a newspaper or watching a newscast or reading my social media feed, I'm not seeing reality as it really is. But Buddhism will tell us that, and the filters the media's filters are greed, hatred, and delusion. So that's society-wide. That leads us to this collective suffering. But think about it on an individual level. And Buddhism says that we all experience the world through our own filters. And we have these filters, they're unique. You know, each of us have our unique way of looking at the world, but those filters that we're looking at the world through are colored by greed, hatred, and delusion. So we're only seeing a partial view of reality, and that's what leads to our suffering. That's this basic teaching of Buddhism. So then the question is, how can we use our practice to purify our mind of these poisons, three poisons, and get some clarity, see the world a little more clearly, and experience the world as it really is, right here, right now. So as I was thinking about this, how do we use our practice? I was thinking I really should practice what I preach. I'm telling you to do this, but maybe I should do it for myself. So I started thinking about, what's a major issue in my current life, and how might that issue be affected by the three poisons? So here's this major issue that I'm dealing with right now. In the past 2 months, I've been spending most of my time every day serving as a caretaker for my 91-year-old mother, who is suddenly suffered a number of health challenges and setbacks. And we've made numerous trips to the ER. She's been in the hospital twice for a total of 17 days. And I was there pretty much all day with her when she's in the hospital. She's had one surgery, probably is going to need another. And she's become discouraged, depressed, anxious. And I've been the only family member that's been with her, because I'm the one that's here. And so this caretaking has just kind of come to dominate my days, and I've canceled a major vacation, and I've fallen way behind on an important writing project I was working on, and I've fallen back into an old family dynamic where I am the good boy, the good son, who's going to fix every problem and who's going to make mom feel good. And I've been ignoring basic self-care like good nutrition and exercise and spending time with my partner. So this is leading to caretaker burnout. So that's the issue. So I thought, okay, maybe I should take a little look at what filters are going on here. And the first thing that became apparent once I started thinking about this was the filter of delusion. I've just been ignoring the reality of impermanence, you know, that I can't make time stand still. I can't stop aging. I can't stop some people my mom getting sick. I can't stop her eventually dying. So impermanence is a real thing. I can't ignore that. I've just been ignoring that big picture. I've been, absorbed in the day-to-day tasks. And then there's another filter I realize going on, and that's the one of greed or clinging. I've been clinging to this image of being the good son. That feels pretty good. I want more of that. It worked for me when I was a little kid. I want it now too. And then the filter of aversion is also at work. I just don't want to face reality. I don't want to have any tough discussions with her. I don't want to realize there's grief looming on the horizon, So I can diagnose that there's greed, hatred, and delusion going on. So then the question is, well, is there anything I can do to work on this? And my practice would say, well, maybe, one thing they talk about is taking refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Okay? So I realized, okay, I have been taking refuge in the Dharma, in the teachings, because I've been reading a book by Thich Nhat Hanh. And I actually started reading that book with my mom out loud. And it's been helping both of us. So the Dharma has been helping us. And then I took refuge in the Sangha, because there's a Sangha member that I know has expertise in this area of dying and aging. And I called her up and said, can we get together? And we got together, and that helped me. So it's good to have a supportive Sangha. So that's probably more than you want to know about my life and my issues, but I just wanted you to see that these poisons can cloud our view of the world. Just like polarizing filters can help keep us from seeing clearly reality. And I wanted you to see how we can use our practice to see the world a little more clearly. And then that action can maybe reduce some of the suffering for ourselves and for others. So, I guess I want you to think about, we've got this society-wide problem, but we've got individual problems and issues. And I hope you can think about how you can use your practice to remove your own individual, identify your own personal filters of craving, aversion, and delusion, and then you can find some ways of purifying your vision a little bit, and then maybe realize that there are some antidotes out there, the generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. And that's where it'd be a good place for us all to end up. So that's my talk for today. And wanted to let you know you're welcome to try out my sunglasses. You're welcome to pick up a copy of the Polarization Sutra. But I'd like to hear your thoughts, your
Randy,
questions or
Randy,
observations.
Thank you for opening up about the fragility of the situation. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And for the practical advice of how to reflect on your own life, of when you are struggling with something, you can identify a suffering and how to reflect on it thoughtfully.
Andy, on the day after George Floyd was murdered, I had to lead my team in a reflection. And I just happened that day to choose a loving kindness meditation that we did together. And I've been doing that every day since. So it's been over 5.5 years that I've done a loving kindness, and it has truly transformed. I do it every morning, it just takes 15 minutes, and it just has changed the way that I really view the world, and sending loving kindness out every morning, can be transformative.
I've heard that from a number of people.
Yeah. Thank you for your talk, it was really beautiful.
Randy, can you
I
turn?
appreciate how bold it is to label this in any environment. You know, we are so polarized right now as a society, and it can be fearful to even talk about it. So thanks for the courage to listen as a group and to speak on it.
What's up, Shorty?
I'll just give you a feeling I had. You were a compassionate person, and we would all, most of us would think, there's a good guy. There's a good guy. And then you have to look inside your head and say, what's his motivation? Well, his motivation was to put somebody else down, maybe a brother or a sister that isn't doing it. And that's kind of an opposite motivation than compassion.
Yeah, well, the motivation was to get good grades because that's what my parents expected. So, you know, it's not a pretty motivation.
It's what glasses you're wearing when you look at the problem.
Yeah, and you get out in the world and there's no report cards anymore. You know, what do you do?
And you do. Where does morality enter into this?
Well, one thing I would say that the
Different subject.
the Eightfold Path is something that gets talked about as a basic teaching, and the first step on the Eightfold Path is right view, which is seeing the world as it really is, and that's kind of what I'm talking about here. But other steps on the Eightfold Path deal with morality, like right speech and right livelihood and right action. So.
Well, you use reality as a word often in you were talking about, and it begs the question: whose reality? It's just a construct in your head.
Yeah, we could go. That is another talk. I see online, Deb, why don't you unmute yourself and.
So, Randy, I am unmuted.
We can hear you, Deb. Yeah, I don't think you can hear us.
Let me. Okay, try it again. I'm not sure.
Can you hear us?
Not sure we can hear you, Deb. Let me see.
And I'm
We're
guessing.
supposed to hit F6.
No.
I'm back again, Randy. Yeah, you can't hear us today.
Well, I got the volume up. No, it's the wrong one. Try it again. Can you try it one more time, Deb?
Can you hear?
I don't think we're going to be able to hear you. Someone else can. Okay.
How about now? Try one more time.
One more time. We have a tech expert here.
Hello,
There we go.
Okay, we've got someone speaking.
it's me, Craig.
Go ahead. You have any-
So I'll ask my question before Deb asks hers. So you mentioned Thich Nhat Hanh, and you're talking about political polarization. He was an ardent supporter of social justice. How does that fit into the whole notion of reality? And from a from your own anecdote, and by the way, I'm sorry about your mom. We've dealt with similar issues, but how would you see that applied into your own personal situation? Like, how does social justice, like from a Buddhist perspective, filter through the two different polarized directions?
Well, it's tricky. I don't, I've got my own set of political beliefs, and I'm not necessarily going to quickly change them. But I do try hard to listen. I've got a friend that has opposite political beliefs, and we talk a lot. So I feel like I'm getting a better view of the world after understanding and listening to him. So I guess that's partial answer. That so I'm not locked into just one particular viewpoint on social justice. I think I can see a little bit bigger picture and or, hear what he has to offer, and that might end up with something that's not quite as polarized. So I don't know if that completely answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, what is real? I guess this gets back to what somebody just said. What is really reality?
Mhm.
And how would you apply this to your situation with your mother? I mean,
Well,
do you, okay, so you said you've like not, you've like let self-care go through the window and all that. Has your looking into the three poisons and all that, has that actually helped you with better self-care, or is that still a work in progress, or is this getting too personal?
uh, well, yeah. You asked my partner. She said she'll tell you that I'm not doing too well in that department. She's helping me to try to do better. I am doing better at facing up to some tough discussions with my mom than I was before. So
So do you feel you have this need to take on everything yourself, or,
I've started reaching out to more people, getting more people
okay,
involved.
good.
That's one thing that's a that I have been doing. I've definitely been trying to get more people involved.
So then that is along the lines of looking at the Sangha, um, for help when you can find
Yes,
it.
yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
it
Yep,
is.
yep,
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool.
Yeah.
yep.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Deb, did you want to offer anything?
Yeah, thank you so much for the talk, Randy, because I really appreciate taking these, more abstract ideas and then bringing out your real life situation. And that's not always that easy to do, but it helps, I think, me think about, okay, how can I use these, ideas to have my life be a little bit more balanced and deal with some of that polarization and what I hear from a different perspective that I find very hurtful and damaging. And um, so it is like going back to the basics sometimes. So thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I just wanted to comment. Thich Nhat Hanh wrote and spoke at great length about polarization, right? And one of the things, a quote he would have is, and I'm paraphrasing, he'd say, the Americans thought I was a communist, and the communists thought I was CIA, right? And he did not equivocate, he did not shy away from calling out the bad actors, right? But he did have an emphasis on, I think, bringing people together, right? And recognizing that you don't need to create false equivalencies between one side or the other, but you can recognize that the division itself is an ill, right? And that, healing comes from bringing together. Because I think for myself, part of the difficulty is like both sidesism, right? And you kind of lose any sense of meaning, right? And you just look at the center and say that's the best, because it's not, maybe, or maybe it is, who knows? So I think his perspective on it was really good. So I just encourage people to check it out.
I agree. Yeah, he's a great model for, and yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I sometimes hear people express frustration or exhaustion when they're trying to work towards positive change, and they see that they can only operate kind of within their own sphere, but there's some bigger societal thing they want to make better. And I heard something similar, like when you said, this is a problem in our society, but it also is in our individual life. So I was wondering, listening to you speak about that relationship, like, do you see like any interaction between those? Like, is what we're doing as individuals making a difference, or how do we make a difference at the broader societal level?
Well, the eighth, I mentioned there were eight items that this sutra talked about. The eighth one, it says, let go of the fruits of action. Engage in wholesome action. Speak words of peace. Work for justice and understanding, but do so without attachment to the outcome. For the outcome is conditioned by many factors, and clinging to it only leads to disappointment and renewed strife. Your duty is the skillful action itself, rooted in compassion and wisdom. So I guess the idea there is you do what you can, but don't, let go of that something's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. It's much bigger than, there's a lot of causes and conditions, but you do what you can. And that's all you can, that's what you can do. Your individual action.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it brings back a memory. I spent time in India, in northern India and whatnot, and I remember in Dharamshala actually listening to the Dalai Lama, and he talked about that. And he said that when you have a direction you're trying to take a conversation, which is based on what amounts to be your own ignorance, because you're filtering, like your glasses, you're not listening, right? You're only hearing, which is a sense. Which for me was really a beautiful thing that stuck. And when you were talking earlier, I just really appreciated. Yeah, there's a lot of reflection.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the lesson.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Do you believe that what are regarded as virtues on a personal or spiritual level can be analogized to the political realm, and if so, how?
I think to a certain extent, yeah. Things like honesty and, that's a virtue. Treating others fairly. I think those sorts of things, if you do them on the political level, would be the best way to do things on the political level. I don't know that gets people elected, but
Yeah.
is that?
Well, so for example, like generosity is a virtue on the personal level, but what does it mean to be generous? Well, you could ask, what does it mean to be generous as a politician? But you could also ask, what does it mean to be generous as a polity? What does it mean for a state to be generous? Is the state generous if it gives like more money
Ah,
to give
okay,
money to.
sure.
Because they give money to a lot of people for a lot of reasons. It seems like a different sort of phenomenon though than.
Right, and that's exactly the sort of question that with my conservative friend, we have discussions like that, and he points exactly that sort of thing out. That certain policies that I think, well, that makes a lot of sense. He points out the opposite perspective on it. So generosity can be viewed in various ways. Yeah, it's tricky. It's very tricky.
Well, giving means taking from somewhere.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, everything's
Yeah.
finite.
yep.
No, I was just gonna say that I was pleasantly surprised by the topic today, about polarization, how does that relate to Zen meditation and so on, because I work for academia in a university, and it's funny because we so much preach diversity of thoughts, but it seems to me that people think more alike than not, and there's a huge intolerance for people that think differently. So I think it's super refreshing from a Buddha, from a Zen standpoint, that compassion and tolerance, and if you think polarization is bad for society, the only way to bridge this gap is by having mutual compassion, because when you're certain about something and there's no room for flexibility in thought and change, you're never going to achieve it anyway. Whether you think you're right or not, it doesn't really matter. The end result matters, and so I just think it's so fascinating, because in my environment should be the prime environment for diversity of thought, and unfortunately it's the opposite. So it's just unique that you express the importance of and the disruption of polarized thinking.
You're welcome to take these sunglasses and to the next faculty meeting and give a little
I'm
talk.
quiet recently for a long time.
One more, well, okay, so talking about like the illusions, you said delusions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can totally relate to you on like the not wanting to look at the realities of grief and like wanting to make your mom happy, but you could use delusion to your advantage to achieve some really good self-care. Because you could tell yourself that the only way you can really take care of your mom is if you really take care of yourself. Just have like as much fun like with yourself and your partner, get some solitude, and that's the only way you can help your mom. So like use that delusion to like be the good son at the same time.
Yeah, right. Did my partner talk to you?
No. Not your son. No. And then just like one more thing, with this like diplomatic motif that we have gone through. The only, I really want to like attempt like an omniscient, neutral perspective on everything, and the more one side throws into the other side, the stronger the other side's group identity becomes. Because the more we attack others, the stronger their group identity is. And, George Washington said in paragraph 22 of his farewell address that the two-party system sows the spirit of revenge, and he didn't even like the two-party system. So it's like, like you're talking about like filters and other sides, and how like you can, like there's a lot of these people having their own perspective on the same thing, like what is true generosity and giving. The only thing that is true and where I believe the real center is the fact that the left, the party that is like leading to the future is the true identity of humanity, and the conservative movement is oxymoron, because the conservative movement never existed. It was the progress, the beating heart of moving forward that is the human soul. And the conservative movement came after that as a response to that. And they're not actually conserving anything. What they're conserving is the last lap, like they're maintaining what was. And equality has always been fought by, in our region, what we call the left. And the resonate at when a coin hits and does that wobble that gets more and more rapid until it's completely peaceful. It has to be with the left view slightly center left. In my opinion.
That's your opinion, so I think that's,
yeah, because otherwise it's just going to be, you know.
I've got someone that would be happy to talk to you and give you a different point of view.
Right, and they'd be wrong, but I'd be kind to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I've got to close things off because it's gone a little long, and I've got some announcements.